I've been preaching to you each Sunday from the verses in the 7th chapter of Matthew. You've heard 3 sermons on the Christian's compass, showing us how to find our way through the ethical wilderness of our days. I begin a new series from the same chapter, continuing with 3 sermons on the Christian's choice. 2 gates, 2 prophets, and 2 foundations. The choices you'll be making will make a difference and set the direction of your life both in this world and in the next. So, I say, let the words of my mouth be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Well, a man quit his job at the fruit packing plant. His friends asked him why. He explained, well, the apples come down a long chute, and I have 3 boxes. I put the big ones in the first box, the middle-sized ones in the second box, and the small ones in the third box. And so all day long, it was just decisions, decisions, decisions. And so it is with life. It's decisions, decisions, decisions. The great English author C.S. Lewis writes, every time you make a choice, you're turning the central part of you, the part that chooses, into something a little different than it was before. And taking your whole life as a whole, with all your innumerable choices, you are slowly turning that central thing into either a heavenly creature or else into a hellish creature. Into a creature that is in harmony with God, or else into one that is in a state of war against God. Your choices are crucial. And that's why Jesus said, enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction, and many are those who enter it. For the gate is small and the way is narrow that leads to life, and few are those who find it. Jesus describes 2 gates toward which every one of us is traveling. One is wide and the other is narrow. He tells us that the wide gate is the easy road. It is easier to cheat than it is to study. Every kid knows that. It is easier to steal than it is to work. It is easier to lie than it is to suffer embarrassment. It is easier to sulk than to forgive. It is easier to hate than it is to love. It is easier to die than it is to live. A dead fish can float with the stream without effort. Only a live one can swim against the current. And so I say to you this morning that if in life you find the going easy, it may be because you are coasting downhill. The wide gate is the crowded road, Jesus said. Many are those who enter it. Why? Well, they may prefer heaven for climate, but hell for company. The easier the trail, the heavier the traffic. That everybody's doing it may be the very best reason not to. Those who reject this world's values will walk a lonely path, regardless of whether they follow this world's fads and fashions. The Apostle Paul said, "Do not conform yourself to the standards of this world." Now, it's important to distinguish between worldly standards and worldly fads. To conform to worldly fads is to be in the world. To conform to worldly standards is to be of the world. The great medieval theologian Augustine counsels Christians to be in the world, but not of the world. There are some Christians, however, who lose both ways. They are religious fanatics who reject this world's fads, that is, hairstyles and clothing fashions and popular music, etc., that have the shelf life of sushi, but they cling to the world's standards and values, that is, money, sex, and power. They are of the world, but not really in it. The wide gate, Jesus said, is the crowded road, and it is the road to hell. It leads to destruction. Heaven is not a cash payment for following Jesus. It is where the road leads. And hell is not a punishment imposed for following Satan. It's just where the road leads. The mystery writer Dorothy Sayers says it is of the essence of heaven and hell that one must abide forever with that which one has chosen. And the choices are simple. We choose one of two gates, the wide gate or the narrow gate. And I must tell you now, there is a place for both broadness and narrowness. Like the guy with the middle-aged spread, we are narrow where we ought to be broad, and we are broad where we ought to be narrow. We need to be broad-minded in matters of taste, but we must be narrow-minded in matters of truth. You see, people's tastes in music differ widely. Are you aware of that, aren't you? Yeah, there are some of us who prefer country western music, some classical music, some easy listening, some prefer hard rock. But in matters of taste, we can be broad. But in matters of truth, we must be narrow. Remember the kid who said he didn't like math because he said the teacher is so narrow-minded about the answers. Every math teacher is, right? So narrow-minded. In fact, he was the same kid who said, if I learn all this stuff, how can I be expected to approach things with an open mind? We must be narrow in matters of truth, but broad in matters of taste. The road to life is a narrow road. There's no broad-mindedness in the laboratory. Water is 1 part oxygen and 2 parts hydrogen. No more and no less. There's no broad-mindedness in music theory. There are 8 steps to an octave. Right, Carlos? 8 steps to an octave. And the choir director will not tolerate even a half step more or less. Right, Victor? There's no broad-mindedness in math. 2 plus 2 does not equal 5, even for old time's sake. There's no broad-mindedness in athletics. Everyone must play according to the rules or be disqualified. In a couple of weeks, there'll be Olympic officials to enforce those rules. There's no broad-mindedness. There's no broad-mindedness in engineering. Pistons must fit the cylinders, even among old friends. Now, I want to say something that is important. And if you don't remember anything else this morning, remember this: that religion is not just a matter of taste. It is a matter of truth. And truth is necessarily narrow. Just as there's one health and many diseases, so there is but one true doctrine and many heresies. In matters of religion, many open minds should be closed for repair. We must be neither broader nor narrower than Jesus was, who said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me." The road to life is so narrow that many can go before us, many can follow after us, but only one can walk beside us. The road to life is an uncrowded road. Few there are who find it, Jesus said. Now, there is a mistaken notion that almost everybody is going to heaven, whether they choose to or not. Hell, if there is such a place,